Hi, I'm LDS in Medium, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I want to try to bring religion and spirituality closer together, and this is what this pod is all about. I will talk about my own thoughts and feelings as I am both LDS and have spiritual gifts, something that I've had my whole life, but I always thought that it was hard to combine these gifts with my religion. This has torn me into two directions, and I have talked to many people who feel the same way. I can't choose not to have my spiritual gifts, but I can choose how I use them. And I always want to use them for good and to help others. I believe my heavenly parents gave them to me for a reason. So, this is me. Join my quest for knowledge. So this episode is going to be about the special children. And so I've asked my sister to do this because she, as you know, has a son that's a really special child. But I have one too. We all have special children, and you're going to learn more when she talks about what it is. But my son is born 2012, my last one, and he's such a dear sweetheart to me. He's so full of love and compassion, and he's my constant joy in life. He's been my support and my knight in shining armor this past year and a half, and I love him to death. And it's going to be so interesting to get to listen to what makes him special and what makes all our children that are born now special.
Yes, so when I started out on my spiritual journey, my sister was in a group that organizes spiritual events. So they bring speakers from abroad and they make like a workshop for 2 days, and it's very intense. So that's how I started. I was helping organize one of the workshops, and I slept there a night and I stayed there for the day. But for the second day I had to go home because I didn't have really anybody to take care of my son for the whole weekend. So one of the speakers on this event was Tim Wilde. He's a very sweet man. He has a big heart and a loving spirit. And I had a crystal that my husband brought back from Brazil for me, and he brought back two, so I gave one to my sister. And it's an agate with the tree of light on. And I asked him to tune it in for me, and so I can take care of my son. And he did that. Well, anyway, so these are some thoughts that he had as he was talking to another one of the organizers of this event. I'll link the video down in below. But they were talking about how from 2010 and onwards, and especially after 2012, all the souls born into this world are the new children. Their soul and vibrational levels are much higher than the other children that has been born, and they are high frequency souls. They're born outside of the karmic wheel. So they're born karma free, and they're each born with a specific mission. Since Earth has not been used to this kind of frequency, and these kids came in with such a high level, and they're designed to shake up the foundations and everything that existed previously and transform also the environment. The new children are the future of our golden era, Tim Wilde says. He said that these children are new to Earth. They have not been here before. That's why sometimes it's like everything that they experience is for the first time. They have different needs and different outputs. They have a different frequency, and their needs are very different. And they're calling for their parents to step into their high roles and work on a higher frequency. And that's something that I really have been feeling, that since my son was born, I was forced to develop in a much higher speed than I have ever been before. And me and my husband really had to step up to the role of being his parents and doing everything in our power to help him. These children are often sensitive, and they have a hard time to cope with the lower frequencies, and a lot of the time their behaviors are misinterpreted. Usually they get diagnosis as ADHD or autism or ADD, but they find it difficult to fit in the norm, and sometimes things like relationships with other children and school are things that become very hard for them. Tim Wilde said that these children have chosen to be here on a soul level. That means that they chose before they were born to incarnate on this earth now at this time. This is also something that we believe in the LDS Church, that the souls that are here now, as what we see is the last time before Christ comes back, and that we all chose to be here in this time of history. It was also an agreement that we were supposed to take care of these special children. So being a parent to these children with high frequency is a mission and take the parental responsibilities to a whole new level. As a parent, you need to be in tune with what your child needs, and you need to honor what the child is asking for energetically. They were also talking about how you need to work on yourself as a parent during this time. You need to work on your healing, transmuting, clearing, and raising your vibration, so you are up to the challenge of taking care of such a special child. This is something also that I felt in my life, that for some things I really need to start taking better care of myself. I feel like as he's growing, he's becoming heavier. I needed to both become more fit and stronger. Tim Wilde says that it's not so hard being single and being 5-dimensional. You can pretty much go off, stay outside a cave somewhere and meditate all day and think about the things that are important in your life and that you would want to help humanity with. But the hardest part of being on the light path is being a parent. He talks about how the Atlanteans was a very child-oriented society, and that the child was in the center, and that they were revered as the future generation, and they realized that what they teach the children was what their temples would resonate with as they were growing up. And I think it's important to think of the children and seeing their wonders not as their questions being annoying, or that they talk too much, or they don't behave the way that they should sometimes. But they're learning, and we need to really think about them as the future generation, and we need to be really careful what kind of example we set to them and what we teach them. Further on, he keeps talking about how we need to be responsible for our children, and we need to make sure that they get the frequencies that they need when it comes to first schooling, medicine, food, and everything. Because a lot of things that are chemical don't resonate with these children. So they were talking about usually they eat a lot of fresh fruits, they eat a lot of vegetables, and try to avoid things like sugar and processed food for them to have their best health. And they're very sensitive to toxins. They were also talking about that you can bless the food and water, and that's something that we also do in our church, that we bless the food before we eat it. But it's funny that they say it also out of a spiritual perspective, that we can bless the food and water as we eat or intake it, to calibrate it to our bodies. They were talking about how the mothers first know their children best, that we shouldn't let others, like governments, dictate for us what we are going to do with our children and how we're going to raise them. If you're feeling red flags, if you're feeling uncomfortable about something that comes with your child's upbringing, then maybe you should pay attention to that, and maybe you need to make other decisions than the people around you. They also talked about how the mother, as the child is born, keeps a part of the child's DNA in them, and that there's always a connection, a very special connection between the mother and the child. That's something that I also felt. I feel a very strong connection to my son, and I know that he has a very strong connection to me, to the point that when I leave the house, he wakes up. Maybe the first time you would think it's a coincidence, but when it happens like a lot, then you start to realize that it's not a coincidence. They also talk about crystals and how crystals help these children, and don't give small crystals to small children, but usually the children, they don't use their brain when they are communicating with the crystals. They're just acting, and they usually treat them in a way that they should be treated. And some things that you can do with these children is that you can look to the angels, you can pray and that you need help and advice with my child, and you can ask them to step in and provide me with a template for it. You can speak to the higher self of your child, because it's right there, right above them, and that's something actually that I want to try to do, since my son is not very verbal. So as my intuition grows, maybe that is something that I would be able to connect to. Nature has a very healing and calming effect on them, so it's good to go outside, climb trees, go outside to sit and study and read, just being outside. But also something that Tim said was that this is a technological age. The children are gravitating towards technology. They know how to do things that maybe even you don't know how to do. And my son, while he can't speak, he can read and write, but he can add things to my story on Facebook and Instagram, and he can do things on my phone that even I don't know how to do. But he said he's not taking away the iPad from his son as he was growing up. He said that these children are here to be a part of this new technological age also. So nature can help to clear and ground and heal these children. And the sun is essential for us to recharge us and raise the frequency. And being outside and feeling the earth and the grass underneath our feet. My son, he is always walking barefoot inside. And he does that sometimes too, and he sneaks out. Usually when we go outside, we try to have socks and shoes on him, but that's the only time where he will wear socks. But him and barefoot is something that's a part of him and who he is. Also, they were talking about the interaction, the social interaction with animals, and how rabbits is heart-based and touches the heart center. Cats keep the energy. They were talking about how cats and dogs used to present themselves at the houses in Atlantis, so they didn't even belong, like it was not houses that had cats and dogs, but actually the cats and dogs that kind of chose what house that their presence was needed in. And so with these children, you have to have conscious parenting, listen to the children and their viewpoint. They're sovereign beings and they came complete. Sometimes if there's anything with your child that annoys you, it's usually an insecurity in ourselves that we need to work on and we need to heal. Also, some of these new children, they did not come here to stay. They only came in very briefly as catalysts. They help to move forward the energy of their parents. Tim said that there's no greater experience on this planet as having one of these children come in and then leave very fast. It's something that inspires incredible change wherever it appears. But there's still a connection between you and your child, and it's permanent. As a parent of a very special child, at first I was very much wanting to know what was happening with him, and also I was wanting to see if there's any way I can help fix it. Autism is not something that you really can fix, but you can help improve the situation. So it's not as hard for the child, and especially with communication, as it was. But definitely it has been one of the experiences that has really pushed me forward and becoming more aware. And it's just that I cannot take anything that usual parents take for granted. I can't take anything for granted. I need to be totally present with him and find other ways to connect, and I need to interpret him. But I'm really happy that I have such a sweet boy and that he came to our family, and I feel that we totally belong together. And that's why also I've been missing him a lot, and it's going to be really great to come home and see him again. But just something that I wanted to say is that a lot of parents, when they have special children, they put their heads in the sand and they pretend like there's nothing wrong. That is not what these children need. They actually need that you step up and that you do your part and that you see them as what they are and you help them to the greatest of your ability. And that's all for today's episode. Keep learning, keep living, keep laughing, follow your dream, and live your passion.
This is my journey. Thank you so much for keeping me company today. Please download, like, share, and subscribe, and help spread the light and spread the word to expand our community. Let's bring more love, peace, and unity to this world. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Always be grateful, kind, and loving. Be brave and remember to step out of your comfort zone and smile. If you support us on Patreon, you will get access to our meditations and extra materials so you can download them as MP3. Also, we now have a Facebook group, which you can access from our Facebook community. Please answer the questions as you apply to participate. It will be a safe haven where we can keep discussing religion and spirituality, our spiritual gifts, and self-development. Remember, one person can make a difference, but together we can change the world.